afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Hope you're having a good one. Today we are tying a variation on a R.A.T pattern, or a salmon fly. It gets its name from Roy Angus Thompson, R.A.T, a rat fly. Generally it's described by the colour it is. So often you'll hear mention of a rusty rat, which, surprise surprise, is a rusty coloured orange through the body. In this case I'm using old gold floss by Semperfli, so it's a gold rat, or if you're using blue, a blue rat, purple, a purple rat. Cool pattern, a lot of fun. A little takeaway from the older patterns, I don't really use the oval tinsel on them. I'm just using a flat tinsel, in this case 0.4mm silver. You could also use silver wire, which is good, it's a lot more durable. I just wanted a little bit extra flash, I guess. So you got your little tag with the same tinsel and the ribbing with the tinsel. Got peacock sword for a tail, squirrel tail for a wing. This is a really good example of hairwing salmon flies. I'm using a grizzly cock hackle for the hackle. I've got a little bit too small on this one. It should probably be a bit bigger, but I quite like it still. Peacock herl through there in the body, as well as the floss being in the colour of your choice. Now under the wing you have a little tag, which you do the same coloured floss as you do for the body. As with all things though, don't limit yourself. If you feel like doing that tag a different colour, go for it. Could be fun to put some flash in there. Do what takes your fancy there. This one I'm using an RX HR412 low water single. We'll be tying on a size 6. Generally they're a smaller fly, like you won't often see them on the big 1/0 salmon fly that you see. The big fully dressed salmon flies on. They're a cool little pattern. Haven't quite had a go with fishing them yet, but I intend to this summer. I'm quite looking forward to it. Just through some of the riffly water, or at the very bottoms of it, where some of the fish like to lurk and hide out. But we'll crack on, get into it. Hope you enjoy. Cheers. Happy time. Alright, I'll be using 2 threads today. Black Semperfli Nano Silk in 50 denier, and white in the same denier. If you're tying bigger hooks, you could use a bigger thread. I like the 50. Important to note when tying with floss bodies is, if you're using a light colour, use a white thread. If you use a dark colour, when you start to fish them, the colour of that thread will actually show up through the floss. So if you have a light yellow or gold floss, if you've got a black thread underneath that, or a dark coloured thread, it'll really take away the colour of the floss. I mean, if it's something you want to go for it, but generally, try to avoid that. The other thing, you want to try to keep this body as smooth as you can. It's going to make those floss wraps look a lot nicer, a lot smoother, a lot flatter. Now you want to bring your thread base down to be in line with the barb of the hook, and then we just cut away the tag end. It's going to give us a nice platform to tie everything onto. Right, for our tag we're using 0.4mm flat tinsel in silver from Semperfli. It is exactly as it sounds like. It's flat tinsel, 0.4mm wide, and silver. Now we're going to use this for the tag. I'll usually just take off a few inches. I'm just going to tie that in. Again, just really focus on those touching wraps. So the flatter you get this, the better it's going to look. That being said, if you're just fishing it, you're not overly worried, up to you. But if you want a nice looking fly, the flatter you can get that, the better it'll be. And we're just going to take it up 4 or 5 wraps. It's not much. And just wrap that back, and we'll tie it in. Just get it nice and secured there. And we'll move on to the tail. Right, for the tail we're using sword feathers, or peacock swords, sorry. Which are these feathers here, which you may have seen around. You don't have to, you could just use peacock herl. I like it, got quite a nice little upturn to them. You can get left and rights, don't have to be this fancy, but I quite like it. So 4 little sword feathers, and got 2 on each side. They kind of curve in towards each other and curve up. I think it just looks quite nice. But for the length, you want it to be so it comes in line with the curve of the hook, or the bend of the hook, sorry. So try to get them lined up as much as you can, and we're just going to do a little pinch wrap, get them tied in on top. Are you happy with that? Could be a little bit, just back a little bit. There we go. And we'll just secure them on top. Not sure what that is. A few fibres got in there from somewhere. Now you don't have to do this on the old salmon fly hooks. You can do it on a wet fly hook as well, or whatever you're using for a streamer. The pattern can correspond nicely over onto them. And we'll just wrap forward, wrapping it along the body. And then I'll just get rid of these tag ends. They've got themselves caught up a little bit. And we'll move on to tying in the ribbing. Right, for the ribbing, again I'm using that 0.4mm flat tinsel. You could use oval if you wanted, or silver wire is quite good, a bit more durable. But this is just again that Semperfli 0.4mm silver flat tinsel. I'm just going to secure that in. I just like it to end up on the other side of the hook for me. Just once we've wrapped the floss in, we're going to counter wrap it with the ribbing. And we'll just move back up the body to tie in that floss. Again, just keeping in mind, just keep it as flat as you can. Try not to too much get the building up the thread in one spot. We'll crack on to tying in that floss. Right, floss body. In this case we're using old gold floss from Semperfli. It's a cool colour. So I'm hoping to swing it through some of my local waters here. I wanted something that's got a really nice sort of yellowy colour on the bottom, and then a darker on the top with the squirrel tail. But there's so many colours to choose from. That Semperfli floss range is great. And we've got purple, red, green here, just as some examples that are on my desk. But a whole range of them. A really nice material. Anyway, so we're going to take a strand of our old gold floss, and we'll just tie it in. I like to just tie it in a little bit, then you can just suck it back using your fingers rather than clipping it off. Just save a bit of material. I just try to get it to sit on top of the hook shank as we tie it in, going further back, just until we get in line with the start of that tail, and then we'll bring our thread back forward, and we'll look to wrap that floss nice and smoothly up the body. And we'll do it about 2/3 of the shank. When I get to editing I might just fast forward through this part because there's a lot of wrapping, and there's not a lot to say really, but just keep it as smooth and even as you can. Again, if you're not tying it for presentation or you're not overly worried, don't stress too much, you'll still catch fish. But if you want to tie a fly that looks nice, then just take your time and try to get it as smooth as you can. Right, there we go. Hopefully that's pretty smooth. I haven't missed too much or anything like that. And we'll just tie that in. Again, using that white nano silk on the underbody means that when this is wet, it's still going to retain that really nice golden colour rather than getting all drab and dark from a dark thread underneath it. And we'll just snip that away. Now hold on to that though, because you'll be using it for the tag. Alrighty, for the tag, take that last little bit of floss you had. Depending on the hook size, fold it so it's double or quadruple it, triple it, whatever you feel you need. And we're just going to tie it so it's hanging over the back of the hook. You want to try to get it on top as much as you can, by as much as you can, I mean make sure it's on top. And then we're just going to secure that in. Now I haven't forgotten about the ribbing, there's a bit of a trick to that. But as far as the tag goes, I'll then trim it so it's about halfway down the tail. And just get rid of that. Then just give it a little fluff up so it's, rather than being two individual strands, it's just one nice little tag there. And we'll just tie that in. Right, so at this point we're going to change over from our white nano to our black. I just want to take the time to talk about the difference in the hook shape, or the eye shape for these salmon hooks. If you look at it from the top, I'm not sure if you can quite see there, it's not a traditional eye. It's actually got kind of loops back on itself, which is something else we're going to have to deal with here. But for now, changing this. So I've stopped this one right in below the tip of where that hook eye folds back on itself. You've got two options. You could just start tying this over there, but for the sake of having a camera in front of me, and I'll probably knock it over or something like that, trying to work the two bobbins around each other, I'm just going to tie it off, which is the other option. I only need one. You don't need to glue it or anything like that. You're going to have your next thread over top of it. From there, just as you would any other fly, you're going to start your black thread. Now I like to start the black thread here because we're going to do the peacock herl body, and I feel the white thread underneath it, much like if you had the black thread under the light floss, the white thread behind the peacock shows through as well, and I don't like it. So yeah, we'll start our black thread now. Now from here, hopefully I won't lose focus while I do this, you can sort of see that different shape there. And you're just going to come up over top of it, and you're just going to keep binding it down until it's nice and flat against the body. And I assume they're like this just through the old ways of forging hooks, etc. And rightly so with a lot of the sport, it's a bit of tradition and that tie to the history of it. But from here we're going to put in the peacock herl. Right, peacock. Now use whichever ones you want. So this is just a packer strung peacock herl, dyed green, which always feels funny to say given peacock herl is green, but it just gives it a little bit of extra greenness, I guess. I quite like it. It's definitely got more to it. I've just taken 3 herls for this one, and as in other videos I like to use my tying thread as a guide for the herl, and we'll just start wrapping this forward. Like I mentioned before, we've gone with about 1/3 for the peacock and 2/3 for the floss as far as hook shank length goes. And we're just going to bring this forward up the body and leaving ourselves just enough room to tie in the squirrel tail and the hackle. And we'll just secure that in. and snip away the excess. Right, onto the ribbing. Right, ribbing proves to be a little bit of a problem. You've got the tag in the way. Easiest way to deal with that is you just run your fingers up until you've got it, pull it forward, almost like you were tying in a flashback or something, and just fold your tying thread over top, which will just hold it down there. Then I'm going to take your ribbing, and as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be counter wrapping this, and we're just going to run it up evenly through the body. Just make sure it's nice and evenly spaced. Just going to give it a lovely flash through the body as well. That tag, like I mentioned, you could probably put some flash in there too if you wanted to introduce that to your fly. There's definitely a lot more options with these modern materials than what they did back in the early 1900s when it was created. Now once you get to the base of that tag, all you need to do is unwind that, and then we can go up through this peacock curl. Just try to keep it as even as you can. That tip of the hook eye can create some problems, but it's usually not too bad. And then just secure that in. A few thread wraps will do it. And we'll snip it away, move on to the tail. Alright, time for the wing. We are using squirrel tail. Really cool, little white tips on it. Starting to get a few bald patches. I've been tying a few of these lately. As any of you who follow my Instagram will have seen, there's been a few pop up over the last month or so. For the tail, I don't like to use a lot. You probably want to look at like a third of a pencil, if that makes sense, like the diameter of a pencil. So just pull it out from the body. It can be a little bit tricky. Get your scissors in there and just snip it away. From there, so you can see we've got all that. Just grab it by the tip. We want to get rid of any underfur. Just pull out any loose bits that are going to be problematic. And then take a look at that. You might have a few little flyaway hairs that you don't want in there if you want to get it looking good. But just sift through them, pull out what you don't want, what you don't like the look of, until you're left with your tail. Ultimately you want to end up with just a little bit, again probably that quarter to a third of a diameter of a pencil, like that. And then as for the length, you want it to be much like the tail, as close to as in line with the bend of the hook as you can. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll fish even if it's a bit longer or a bit shorter. Now I find it easiest once you've worked out that length. You'll have it pinched with your fingers, pinch it again, trim off all this stuff. It's going to save you a job. Oops. Save you a job tidying it up at the end. Hopefully, I'm not too far out. That looks pretty good. And then those tips, if you just line them up with where you want it to get tied into. Just with here, I find a little bit easier before I forget, getting ahead of myself, is just a little bit of wax. Just helps things to grip and not slip around too much. And we'll just get this tied in here. I just want to get a nice little thread base to put it on. A little bit more wax. And we'll just put those tips in there. And we'll bind it down. nice and tight. Pretty much as close as I'm going to get to the money. It's probably just a little bit over the end of that hook bend, but from here we'll move on into the hackle. Almost done. Right, for the hackle, using a little grizzly cock feather from a cape, and I've just taken off a little bit of the fibres there from the stem, which just helps with that first initial wrap, and then cleared away all the fluffy bits. We're just going to tie this just here, just so that first feather's in line with where your tail starts. Cool. And we'll get rid of that little tag end. Don't need that. Alright, here we go. Now that, we'll just bring this around here. By getting rid of those first initial fibres, it just makes that first one a bit cleaner, a bit neater, and we're going to fill it out anyway, so you won't notice it. Just grab it with your hackle pliers if you feel so inclined, and with your fingers, and just start preening them back as you wrap forward. You've got to be a little bit gentle. We'll just keep going. So when I say got to be gentle, you just don't want to snap the tip of that feather. Probably could have gone with the bigger, bit of a bigger hackle, but it's not bad. And we'll just secure that in. There we go. Cut away that little tip there, and I just like to pull it all back and secure it in. Just a couple little fibres gone away from me here, but just trim them off if you need to. There we go. And the little tag end bits will lay down. Cool. And we'll move on to the finish, whip finish. Right, just before I whip finish this, is of note, a lot of the rat patterns that you'll see have a red or orange head. It's definitely a popular one. Reading the other day though, traditionally there's mention of it being done in black. Either take your pick. I'm just not a big fan of hot-headed patterns on my local rivers, so I'm sticking with the black. But by all means, you could have swapped this out again for an orange thread or a red thread, but at this point we'll just whip finish it. Easy peasy, done. Might just put another one on there just to be safe. Right, we've got one last step, which is optional. You could leave it at this. Alright, that last step, again optional. You could just use head cement, but I quite like to use a little bit of black UV resin, this one being from Grip. And it just secures it. You just want a thin layer of it there. You could use, you can get black head cement as well, but I quite like this UV stuff, and I just use my bodkin to apply a little bit here, and I'll try to do it nice and cleanly on the far side. Usually I'll turn it towards me. I think we're getting it there. Yeah, looks good. And then we'll do the bottom as well. And this is just going to keep those threads nice and secure. I mean, it's not going anywhere, but those trout do have sharp teeth. And then just hit it with your UV light there, which is just going to cure it up. Just make sure it all gets done nice and proper. Cool. Should be okay. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Right, there we have it. One old gold rat fly. Again, the colour in the name depends on the colour of the floss in the body and the tag. So if it's purple, it'd be a purple rat. If it was blue, it'd be a blue rat. Green, it'd be a green rat. If it's in rusty orange colour, it'd be a rusty rat, which is probably the most common one, or most well-known one. Tied on that R.A.T HR412 low water single, which is a classic low water hook, designed, traditional salmon fly kind of pattern. And then for the tag and the rib, we've got that 0.4mm silver Semperfli flat tinsel peacock sword for the tail, but you could just use herl. Tag and the body is that Semperfli old gold floss. We've got squirrel tail for the wing, grizzly hackle for the hackle. Probably a little bit short on this one, it could go longer, it'll definitely go longer. We've got peacock herl for the body, and then the important part, white Semperfli nano silk through the body, so you've got that light coloured thread underneath, and then swap it over for the dark colour, or whatever colour you need to use for the head. But there you have it. I hope it's a handy pattern for you. I hope you enjoy the video. Happy tying, and see you next time. Cheers.